Tackle today, the Justice Brothers from Tackle Trading, bringing you all the charts, the news, the analysis, so you can be informed in your day in just a few minutes. Taiwan Semiconductor delivers. Economic data continues to be creating two strong narratives in the market today. We'll break it all down today. Matt, we have tech leading semiconductors up, trying to make up for some of those losses from ASML. Break down the technical charts for us.
Yeah, when you're looking at the market here today, a little bit of a gap up with a little bit of selling pressure after the cash open is what we're seeing across the board in a lot of the markets here today, and that's following a Taiwan Semiconductor earnings report where they did pretty good. We'll talk about them here in just 1 second. On the S&P 500, a little bit of a gap up. Cash open was a little bit negative, but overall hasn't really changed the structure of the trend or the pattern. And you can really kind of see that across the board. RSP just kind of hovering up here at the top end of its current trend and pattern. The Q's trying to firm up that breakout channel right around that 500 level. IWM really testing that 225 level here today. Did achieve getting above it yesterday. Now you're testing it here today. We're looking at a little bit of, can we get that up to 230 and then retrace back down to 225? That would look like a pretty good technical setup on IWM. And then on the Dow Jones, a little bit of a gap up and just hesitation. So when you are looking at the market here today, it really kind of the same storyline. A little bit of a gap up on the overnight action, profit taking on the cash open. Really haven't seen any additional volatility.
Yeah, no, listen, and the economic data that came out today was on the hot side. We see yields climbing quite noticeably today. That's weighing on some interest rate sensitive areas of the market a little bit. And it was pretty much hot across the board. I mean, this has been the story for weeks now in economic data. After those growth worries we had a couple months ago, we've had a string of economic beats that continue today. Both retail sales and core retail sales month over month numbers stronger than expected. Unemployment claims, not the story it was as some of those hurricane related numbers that bumped up the number last week came back within its range. And the Philly Fed Manufacturing Index coming in hot as well. And so this continues the storyline that we have seen in economic data for 3-4 weeks now. Strong economic data, better than expected, creating that soft landing narrative and also sending yields up in the process. Matt, what do you make of the data?
Yeah, good data here today, but it has been good data for the last 2-3 weeks on the economic side. And the one thing that I see as we do go into the heart of earnings season, really kind of starting next week, is there's not an economic conversation really. There's a soft economic landing type conversation out there in the market, and yields are responding to that. But outside of that, not a real concern on the economic front, especially regarding economic reports themselves.
Yeah, no, listen, the story of the day, Taiwan Semiconductor, one of the central, most important stocks in the market. It's not just a semiconductor stock. Its place in the AI story and in the market story. This is a circle the calendar type of economic uh, earnings event. And well, they delivered. Matt, what were the numbers?
Yeah, they did deliver, and there was a little bit of concern after ASML a couple of days ago with their misreporting and just kind of overall volatility that event did play out, and that did remind a lot of people about what occurred last quarter as well. Before we saw the S&P, go down right about 10%, but that was really an ASML storyline. Taiwan Semiconductor comes out and they beat on EPS by about 11.5%. They beat on revenue with 36% revenue going up year over year. They raised guidance by about 2 billion from 24.2 up to about 26.2. And so you're talking about a hat trick here. And that's what we were looking for, not only in the AI conversation, the semiconductor conversation, but specifically here for Taiwan Semiconductor. They pull off that hat trick which is a beat on EPS, a beat on revenue, and then a legitimate increase in forward-looking guidance. They weren't done there, Mark. They also had a 54% net profit on their revenue. Just an absolutely good earnings report coming out of Taiwan Semiconductor, and they did gap.
And not a lot to nitpick on this report, is there?
No, there isn't. Absolutely not. There isn't. That's why the market gapped up on Taiwan Semiconductor and ran away from the gap in a breakaway gap. I'll break that down here in a second. Taiwan Semiconductor, a Tackle 25 stock that we have on our Tackle 25 covered call watch list. It's a very good stock and obviously performing very well here today. Two other stocks on the Tackle 25. It's kind of a little bit of a mini Tackle 25 day as we got CSX Railroad coming out here today. You also had Still Dynamics as well. CSX came out with a 4% miss, 1% year over year growth, and they missed basically due to lower than expected volumes coming out of coal, and it did hurt their railroad revenue. And so they did have a little bit of a miss here today. Still Dynamics reported 205. Expectation was 198. That's a 3% beat. Rev came in a 5% decline as well in terms of their overall revenue as well. They reaffirmed forward looking guidance. And so a little bit of a walk in the park type report for Still Dynamics and a little bit of a miss on CSX, but Taiwan Semiconductor really carrying the day here today. And when you do look at Taiwan Semiconductor, one of the catalysts in the AI conversation, one of the most important stocks in the AI conversation, we did the AI webinar yesterday. It was a fantastic webinar, had a lot of fun. Thanks for everybody to come out and hung out with me yesterday in the webinar. We do have this the upcoming Master Trader course coming up on Monday and Tuesday. If you want to attend, make sure to email us the team at Tackle Trading or hit the link in the description below. Taiwan Semiconductor gaps out. This gap is what we call a breakaway gap. When you break out of a neutral range and then you run away from the gap, neutral range being on the intermediate time frame more than anything, but you break out of that, you run away from that, that is called a breakaway gap. Typically, we see a good leg in the market following a positive earnings report in a gap situation like this. However, you also want to understand that you're overextended after this earnings report, and you want to let that set up in a secondary formation. But overall, positive for the space, positive for semiconductors, and positive for the market itself. When you're looking at some of the other two stocks that we talked about, CSX was the other one. Remember, they're the ones that missed on EPS, missed on revenue, and had a little bit of a guidance concern. You have to reflect that, but you also were front run going into CSX, gave up that front run. Now you're right back down into the neutrality. It's a good cover call stock, and that's basically what I would start immediately doing when it comes to a gapping situation like that. And then it's Still Dynamics, which is Tackle 25 stock. Still hasn't really been part of the overall conversation in the commodity landscape lately. It's been a lot of silver, a little bit of copper, and obviously gold and so on and so forth. Still Dynamics came out with a gap out against the neutrality. You would call that a breakaway gap. You're not running away from the gap, so you don't have momentum, but a very similar type technical conversation where you do have a mid-tier breakout. You would like to see that get dialed in, but a good price response, in my estimation, a little bit more than the actual earnings report coming out of Still Dynamics. The stock of the day, the chart of the day, Taiwan Semiconductor gap out.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Listen, one of the charts of the day that might have to compete with that is gold. Yields might be weighing on some interest rate sensitive stocks. And in a different universe, Matt, that wasn't 2024 with gold, they might be doing it on gold. Gold's like, I do not care. And this is something we have talked about in our newsletter, in our traders lounge here in the Tackle Today. Gold is trading on something else, breaking out to all-time highs, Matt. Beautiful chart.
Yeah, it is a beautiful chart. You're absolutely right, Mark. We say there's a lot of confidence in the investor class when it comes to gold. That confidence for a variety of different reasons, but let's just throw out the sovereign debt situation across the world as one of those underlying reasons. But the simple reality is it's been a beautiful situation on gold all year long, and it doesn't change here today as we are testing that breakout channel at 2,700, and that is despite the dollar still going up, up, has not changed its course in any capacity, continues to just go up on that same algo program, but it hasn't stopped what we see in gold. And that's why we're so impressed by gold. It's not just the fact that gold's up here over the course of the last week. It's up in the face of the economic situation that's happening in the US, which we're seeing economic beats. It's going up in the face of the dollar, which is going up in which is putting a lot of pressure on gold. That's why it's been impressive, and it's certainly impressive here today as well. When you look at the rest of the commodity landscape, silver just kind of hovering underneath that very important breakout channel at that 29.5 level, just kind of trying to dial that in. When you're looking at copper here, copper had a little bit of a sell-off. Now you're looking at this 200-day moving average, 50 combo average, old pivot point. That's a pretty important support level right around that 4.3 handle, but you're going to need to see a little bit of development there as you're underneath some very important short-term moving averages in the 9 EMA as well as the 20 SMA as well. Outside of that, you got crude oil here doing a little bit of slowing momentum over the last three.
Oh my goodness, two boring candles in a row, man.
Three. That has not occurred in a while. I wouldn't necessarily call it a change of direction yet, and we haven't seen any patterns get really kind of dialed in. But three candles starting to slow down a little bit does pique your interest just a little bit.
Listen, it's a big, huge day in the market. Lots to discuss. Traders Lounge is going to be popping. Come join us if you are not a pro member. The easiest way is to go to tackletrading.com, get 2 weeks free on us. Do it today.
Last thing, Master Trader. It's a class 2-day course for our pro members at Tackle Trading. If you want to attend that course next Monday and Tuesday, it's a course on technical analysis and trading options. Come join us. It's free for pro members. So you can just go to the link provided in the description below, hit that link, and you can sign up for a free 15-day trial and come hang out with us in Master Trader next Monday and Tuesday.